Welcome, my name's Anthony Oliver, I'm the editor of Infrastructure Intelligence, and welcome to this, it's the first of our Straight Talk series. Thanks very much for coming along. I'm going to put some questions to Mark, and we're going to try and put him on the spot, find out what's going on in the world of BIM, and the world of, I suppose, the road to 2016, and then I'm going to open the floor up to you. Mark, probably about the last 5 years, Mark has, I suppose, been driving the UK's move towards a digital built environment and really driving forward the ambitions around BIM. You can discuss at length whether BIM is the right word, but BIM is the phrase that we now all have come to know and adopt: building information management, building information modelling. Take your pick. And I suppose, having led this whole BIM strategy, he has really been focused throughout on a date which the British government has set of April 2016, and for making sure that every project which is run by the UK government is actually mandated to use BIM. And I suppose Mark, I hopefully will explain a little bit more about what is actually meant by that mandate, but that has been the challenge, and I suppose what it's done is it's raised the level of expectation around the whole of the UK and its approach to BIM. But I think it's also fair to say that it's raised the bar in terms of the UK's position in leading thought around this area across the rest of the world. It has precipitated quite a large cultural shift. There's probably more cultural shift that's required to go on from now on, but it certainly started this whole journey, and as I describe it, the road to 2016 has been difficult and long, and there's a road that continues thereafter in terms of this creating this cultural shift. So I suppose Mark would always say, and I think when I did an interview with Mark in the magazine about a year and a half ago, he would always say that level 2 is just the start. And I suppose what we're going to try and tease out today is, how we're getting on in the road to 2016, but also what is life beyond 2016 like. So Mark, this Straight Talk, are we on track to meet our targets for 2016? Are we on track to get meet the mandate?
Of course. Good evening, everybody. Great to be here. Thanks, Anthony. Yes, of course we are. We didn't set out this journey to not succeed. The mandate's an interesting word. I'm not sure whether it's a mandate or whether it's just a direction of travel or quite what, but the intention was we get to 2016 where the majority of central spend, and what I mean by that is the departments which aren't devolved out into local authorities, start to lever the market in a way where behaviours change. And we mentioned a moment ago behaviours. That's really what we're trying to do here, is to create a sway in the market where people start to do things in a consistent way and use the digital economy to transact. So level 2, you're absolutely right, was a stepping stone along that way. And we created a strategy back in 2011 which basically built a push and a pull between the client and the supply chain. So if the client starts pulling consistently, hopefully, if we set the rules correctly in the middle, which is the standards that we've developed, the supply chain can start to get good at pushing. And that's kind of what we're starting to see now. We're starting to understand what BIM is, we're starting to understand what data is, we're starting to understand what validation is, and how data can be used. And that's really the point of level 2, is to start that conversation.
So tell us, how do you define level 2? What is your definition of where we need to be by April the 4th?
Very straightforward. There's a set of PAS documents. They're called 1192 12345. And those documents, they're rather cryptically named. Sorry about that. That's a British standard limitation that we have around that. So the numbers and the names are a bit cryptic. But those are the documents which have been developed to set the rules. And inside there's a set of references and a set of outputs. One of the outputs is something called an employer's information requirements. That document, if you execute it against the standards, goes into the contract, and if you've done that correctly, you are BIM level 2 compliant. So around process and around data, it's all laid out inside the 1192 documents. They are cryptic, and we've put, and that's, as I said earlier, it is a limitation of a BS document, but they're very specific, and what we're doing at the moment is starting to put together some more guidance and case studies and that kind of thing to help people along that journey.
So presumably there is quite a lot of, I suppose, wriggle room for people meeting the target in August?
Interesting choice of words. Now it's like this. If you're building Crossrail or you're building a £3 million primary school, life is a bit different when you go to work every day, and that kind of gets reflected in the contract. So what goes into the employer's requirements is compliant with 1192, therefore it's level 2, but it is specific to the project. It's appropriate to the project. The last thing I want to do is be loading costs into anyone's project. We're supposed to be driving benefits and savings and program savings. So absolutely, if I see people loading costs, they've got it wrong. And so
Yeah. So do you think that the industry has, I suppose, really embraced this as an opportunity, or do you think, in reality, looking back where you've been over the last 5 years, the industry has I suppose, adopted it because it has to?
Yes, for sure it does. If they want to enter the public sector market, they have to, because that's part of the mandate. But don't forget, the public sector central spend 18-ish billion of the 95 billion across the whole of the UK every year. It's a small but significant proportion of the market. That chunk of market has had a fantastic effect on pushing out into the local authorities, where we see some great behaviours, and out into the private sector, where the kind of real litmus test sits. If a developer is implementing BIM level 2, and they don't come a lot hard-nosed than a developer and a bank, actually you kind of think, well, yes, we're starting to see something really change. And as I said earlier, this is kind of a stepping stone to get people into the conversation. People are talking about data, they're talking about BIM, they're talking about improvement, and they're talking about innovation. That's exactly what we wanted. That was exactly where we started out with this journey. The fact that the figures are also showing us that we're reducing CapEx, and we're starting to get a conversation around operational costs, absolutely that's what we wanted.
So even though it's a public sector mandate, what you're saying is you're actually seeing the private sector is also now driving this? For
sure, absolutely. We see, as I said earlier, if a developer picks this up and runs with it, and we look at the Grosvenors and the Great Portland Estates and British Land and Argent and those sorts of people, if they're going down this route, there's a good reason for it, for sure. There's no mandate, there's no reason for them to have to do that, but they're seeing their suppliers and their tier ones and their designers using the tools, they're using the techniques, getting the data. And they're not getting access to it unless they put it into their contracts. So they're losing all that opportunity.
Right.
And that's what they're seeing, is lost opportunity, and that's why they're starting to join in.
But the reality is, come April the 4th, there will be public sector organisations who miss the target. Is that right?
No. The centrally funded departments are all green on the Cabinet Office measure, so they've all been on a long journey. Some have come a lot further than others.
Right.
The famous projects that you see with the MOJ are fantastic projects. They are driving some real benefits. We see the same in schools. It's true to say, some of them started a long way back. Defence estates and DIO were a long way back in that journey. They had a big outsource to contend with at the same time, but now they're there. They've made it. They're green on the.
So every single public sector organisation is green, as you describe it. It means that they will comply with BIM level 2.
Everyone in scope. So the centrally funded, as I said earlier.
Right.
So schools, highways, environment, health. And Home Office, and those centrally funded ones. Anywhere where it's just devolved out into a local authority, which includes Network Rail and TfL and those sorts of organisations, that's for them to choose.
Right.
Many of them have chosen, which is great. You see TfL and Network Rail both bought into that process, but they are managed in a different way. They are devolved authorities which are in charge of their own destiny. That's kind of democracy in the way we run it here, and that's they're the rules.
So it's everybody except Network Rail,
which have bought in.
All right, they have. So Network Rail will be.
Yeah, for sure.
And Highways England.
Yeah.
Okay.
Highways England have probably got 5 or 6 very major projects. The A556, I was up on the M1 junction 18 the other day with the Skanska project, which is the A14 junction. Fantastic use of data. They've got guys out on site with pads setting out. All the resources they used to have out on site are now in a cab with GPS downloads into the muck shifting kit. Not only is it massively more accurate and productive, we haven't got so many people on site getting injured, so you start to see all the other knock-on benefits around starting to be imaginative about how you use this information.